We are going right into the show. This is the pre-show, and we got 5 minutes before the official 8 o'clock date. But I wanted to get this thing going started early because we have a lot to talk about. Let me welcome Imani's coming by later. She's going to jump in when she gets here, but I want to introduce Ali Dussman, who was here last week. Again, thank you for coming through, Ali.
My pleasure as always. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much. We're gonna hopefully get as many women involved. So Imani's coming. We got Ali coming. Cynthia is someone else. Hoping that she will come by. We're gonna put the link for the chat, the link to come, and we're gonna allow, just like we did the last couple of weeks, we're gonna put the link in the chat and let you come in, and you can show your face if you want. If you don't want to show your face, but you can come in and say whatever you want to say. If you want to ask a question or talk about the topic that we're talking about at the time, and you could say that and then jump out. So we'll jump guests in and jump them out like a minute or two, and we're going to be doing that today, trying this out, this new format, and see how it goes. So with that said, let me bring up my screen and let's get the discussion started. All right. So I just wanted to show this because this is a picture of, let me see if I could bring it up, the Cuyahoga River. And this is back in the day when it was on fire. If you ever heard about, before the EPA was created, the Cuyahoga River was on fire because of all the sludge that companies, corporations were putting into it. Mm-hmm. And this is just a picture of it. I was just amazed. I know, Ali, as our panel environmentalist here, what you think about this? And have you heard about that story, how EPA was created, all that good stuff?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that was, I have a degree in all this stuff. So the burning of the Cuyahoga River in Ohio was like sort of the wake up call, that the water was literally burning. And was one of the many impetuses for the environmental movement, along with like Rachel Carson's Silent Spring about the decline of migratory songbirds and some other things as well. So absolutely, yeah.
Wow, awesome. All right.
So that's what it takes, a river on fire? Okay.
Yeah, that's what it takes, a river on fire.
Crazy. All right.
The Supreme Court is looking at EPA ruling soon.
So I don't have to show the audio on this, but I'm just going to show you. This is a short 5-second video, and this is a tale of two Columbias: the outgoing vice president and the left, the incoming vice president on the right. So let me make it bigger. Mm-hmm. Boom. And you can just see the difference. Look at this. Who's the person that looks like a pompous, not a woman of the people, while the incoming VP is just ecstatic to talk to the maids, right?
That's that out of touch elites. Somebody that has been there, knows about the people, cares about the people.
She's the only one that sees them. Well, she used to be a housekeeper, right? She used to be a housekeeper before.
Oh,
so, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, she was a housekeeper, and then she got vice president.
Yeah, she came a long way. For what I understand, she's a true activist, more left than the actual president that ran. And
I think first woman, first Latina VP.
Yeah, so I'm curious because this is people have described him as someone who is center left. So he's not radical left. It's like he's almost as if Bernie Sanders was elected, but here he is getting someone far to his left, where, at the time, I didn't vote for Obama personally because I think I kind of saw him for who he was. But a lot of people saw him as a progressive, someone who would not do what we eventually saw what he became. But you saw somebody like him, he picked somebody to his right because, Joe Biden was definitely somebody that was actually pro-choice, I believe. He advocated for being anti-abortion and stuff. And where else? I'm trying to think of another example. We have Hillary Clinton when she won the nomination in 2016. She picked Tim Kaine, and he was anti.
Look at John.
Look at John. He was anti pro-life.
Yeah.
I knew the minute she made that pick, I knew that was just the law.
It's over.
It was over.
So there's the question that I'm bringing up. Like, what if Hillary Clinton would have picked Bernie Sanders or picked someone to his left? Maybe she would be president today. Go ahead, Big Pun.
I don't think she would have picked him.
Yeah,
She would have picked him. He's not part of
is, would
not
she
part
have
of the club.
won?
She
But
could
I
have
mean,
picked, she could have picked anybody but Kane.
Yeah, somebody more, because usually what I guess presidents do, they pick somebody to get the people that they wouldn't normally appeal to. So with Obama, he's trying to appeal to the more center Democrats, whatever. So he got an establishment with Biden. If Hillary would have picked somebody that's just a little bit more to the left of her,
Elizabeth Warren, maybe at the time.
So she would have picked someone. Again, it's nothing like Kane is a senator here in Virginia. Like he's not bad. He's not too bad, but he's just like nobody outside of Virginia knew who he was.
Yeah, that's the other thing, right?
And the reason why she picked is like, well, he speaks Spanish and he did this in Honduras and he's going to get the Latino vote. And you ask people in Virginia, Latino people who would think Kane, they didn't know who it was. So it's very like, you pick someone that nobody knew anything about him. Like, so, that's why I was shaking my head. It wasn't like he was like, he's really that bad, because he's not. Like, Mark Warner is 10 times worse than him. But I just don't think there was really any assignment on it. But they were like, who? Like, who's that? So he didn't bring anything to the table. That's why I was shaking my head.
I think that's generally how it goes with these vice presidential picks anyway. You go ahead and you hold your breath and you're like, who is this person? And then you find out. But you normally, I don't think they pick somebody as popular as they are. Do you understand what I'm saying? You don't pick a person that's got the same.
But you pick somebody that brings something, because when you look at Biden, like the Obama, like he brought in some Republicans vote that were like, oh yeah, Biden, he's been in the Senate for 40 years. He could work outside, so he brought in the white vote. And when you look at Kamala, as much as people dislike her, the black vote, there's a lot of black people that swear for her. So there was something there, right? Like in California, she didn't bring anything, but maybe she brought something there. Like when Kane, I didn't see him. There was nothing that he would add. Like Virginia was already, Donald Trump said, I'm not even campaigning in Virginia. That's just like the laws. And he almost won it. So why pick him? Like, it wasn't like Virginia was
how much autonomy do you really think these candidates have in picking their VP running mates, though? I mean, look at John McCain. Do you really think he wanted Sarah Palin? Because once they met, there was like oil and water. They were very different people, right? And it turned out not to be a good pick for him. And I'm wondering how much, I mean, there's a lot of politicking that goes into it, Oh, we're running, a black man as president. We should get a white man to do it. Or we're running a white man as president. Let's get a black woman to do it. It's like, I am going to have a black woman. And I don't know how much they actually select their own running mates rather than it's like decision by committee.
Right.
Yeah, I think they do have a lot of autonomy, but it's a political calculation. So it's not just them. I'm going to pick whoever I want. It's like, the committee, the people around them, like, okay, who would be the most beneficial for our campaign type deal? And maybe they throw out like, 2-3 names and like that. I don't think it's like, we're going to pick for you and that's it.
Because there is an official process to get your VP, right? That I believe like there's elected officers that have to vote for it. It's just that whoever they come to a consensus around, that's usually what it is. But let's say, for example, if Bernie was nominated and let's say he wanted Cornel West to be his vice president, I'm sure there will be a lot of people who would go through that process who would be like, nope, I'm not voting that person for Cornel West.
It's also like, I think, when you started,
Imani?
when you started hearing about, who was it? Kamala, right? Like there was a lot of reports about how that was Wall Street pick, and if Joe Biden wanted donations from the big dogs, that's who they needed to pick. So how much influence the donors have too. So
right.
Let me bring in Imani Oakley. What's going on, buddy? Good to see you.
Hey, what's up? Sorry I'm late, everybody. My computer is having some crazy issues. So happy to be here. Thank
Not
you.
a
Hey,
problem.
Allie, how's it going?
Hey, good. We need to catch up.
Yes, for
Yeah.
sure.
I told Allie last week, I was like, I want to do like an exit interview with you both. And we'll arrange that off camera. And it will be great just to have you all. And we could talk about running as a Democrat, the ups and downs and all the different things that regular people don't know about, that you guys might not have, you ladies might not have known about, that you learned, that you can let us know. So we'll talk about that later. Everyone in the chat, everyone who's watching this, look forward to that interview coming up. We'll arrange something maybe next week. So I want to bring in a video, and basically we're gonna have I have a couple things from Twitter, a couple tweets that we're gonna discuss, and then we're gonna get to the Roe v. Wade repeal discussion. So I have something I want to share. This was an interesting video.
For abortion rights. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Appreciate it. Zoe, talk to me first about why it is you wanted to come out here today, because something that struck me was when you were speaking earlier and you mentioned your anger because you had received a text message from the Biden campaign. Why is that?
So I received a text message from Joe Biden's campaign yesterday saying that the Supreme Court had overturned Roe versus Wade and that it was my responsibility to then rush $15 to the Democratic National Party. And I thought that was absolutely outrageous because my rights should not be a fundraising point for them or a campaigning point. They have had multiple opportunities to codify Roe into law over the past 20, 30, 40, 50 years, and they haven't done it. And if they're going to keep campaigning on this point, they should actually do something about it.
What are you most worried about, Julia? I'm most for abortion rights.
All right. Yeah. So I definitely, you know what? I want to go to our former candidates first, and of course, ladies first, to talk about this. This is something that right away when this happened, so Nancy Pelosi sent out a fundraising email, send $15 now. So let me go to Imani. I'm going to go to the A's first. I'm going to go to Allie first and then go to Imani.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I got the fundraising emails after the leaked memo from the Supreme Court before the decision even happened, right? Floodings of memos, fundraising letters saying, please send us money. This is going to happen, blah, blah, blah. And then there was something on the news where the Pelosi was talking about, we've raised over $10 million in 24 hours. And I was like, who cares? Right? I mean, this is not, it's exactly what this girl said. It's not a fundraising thing. And the one part that gives me a lot of hope is that here's this young woman and she gets it. She gets it, right? She gets it, that this is not a game. This is not a fundraising activity. This is her life. This is the lives of women everywhere. That gave me hope. But Imani, I don't know if you're the same way, but I've become so jaded and cynical because it is all about fundraising within the Democratic Party. They really don't care about constituents. They just don't.
Go ahead, Imani.
Yeah, so, I will say on the one hand, I do understand the need, not for really the corporate Dems to fundraise because they get all their money from corporations, so they have no need to fundraise. But I do understand the campaign type of activity of, this big thing happened. We have to send out a fundraising email because, believe it or not, that does get people to fundraise. It does get people to donate to your campaign. So on the one hand, we're talking about strictly campaign tools and skills. I understand why it's used because it works. Again, don't understand why the corporate Dems are using it because they don't fundraise off of grassroots donations. They fundraise off of corporations. So no idea why they're harassing people. But as, a grassroots candidate myself, I do understand why it would be a campaign skill or attribute that would be, done throughout a campaign. Now, again, focusing on the actual corporate Democrats themselves, I mean, the reason why we're here, we cannot ignore the reason why we are here, why we are in a nation where Republicans are constantly running over the rights of everyday people. And that's because not only, it's easy to say, yeah, the Republicans are out of whack. Yeah, the Republicans are bad. Yes, but we know that. We've known that for God knows how long, certainly before I was born, right? We've known that for a very long time. The way to combat them, though, is to have other elected officials who are actually good at their job, who actually show up for everyday people, and people know that they actually show up for them and they fight for them. This cycle, what did we have? We had Democratic leadership going out there and stumping on the campaign for people who are anti-choice, for sitting Democrats that are anti-choice, which honestly, in and of itself, the fact that I have to say there's still a sitting Democrat that is anti-choice is crazy. It's out of line. So again, we have to focus on the reason why we got here, and that's because the Democratic Party likes to snuff out its most inspiring wing, while Republicans just trample over our rights. They fight the progressive left harder than they fight Republicans, and that is why we are here.
Yeah, let me go to the chat and give some love to the chat. We got PJ Holly is in the building, Rafael Rodriguez, who we're about to go to, and also everyone in the chat. If you want to join the show temporarily, we're going to have people jumping in and out. We're going to bring Raf in. You could hop in the restream and sign up, and then we can bring you on. You can ask any question. You could make a comment, and if have you on for about a minute or two, and then we can rotate other guest people coming in. So once again, I want to give a shout out to PJ Holly. Who else is in the chat? We got RIP Shireen, who also said, let me read this comment. Hi, Imani. I'm a big fan of what you're doing. I donated to your campaign and tried to promote your campaign in local Cranford Facebook groups and spread the word with my friend in Jersey City. Imani, you can make a comment.
Thank you so much for your support. We're fighting the good fight. The fight doesn't stop. We're not fighting. You're not stopping to fight the corruption of the machine. We're going to keep going. So thank you so much for your support.
All right. So we're going to bring in our first guest. We got two guests in the chat waiting. So the first person we're going to go to is Raphael. All right. Much love to you, my man. Any comments, any questions you want to ask?
Comments or question? Oh my God.
What do you think about the video that we just showed? What do you think about that video?
Well, it's more a general thing. That's what's been going on. It's becoming such a numb and depressing moment in our history. Things that you don't think could happen, it's happening. And as someone who, I joined the U.S. Army, and I was also a New Jersey State Trooper, because I'm proud of my nation. I'm proud for everything we have done, despite the fact we have differences. And I always see this nation as a nation that always goes forward. We learn from mistakes and we go forward. What happened Friday, and now not just only on Friday, but also what happened a month ago with Texas. It seems like we're taking not just a step back, but a leap forward. And it gets to the point where, we ask ourselves, what are we doing? Taking away a constitutional right is just beyond, on flabbergasted.
What do you think about Nancy trying to use this moment, to fundraise and we haven't seen them fight at all?
I'm a Democrat, but I would say, Democrats have shot themselves for many, many overtimes. This is their grand opportunity since Trump left to make some moves. And I'm very disappointed. And for example, a fundraiser, come on, we can't have a fundraiser for everything. It is a school shooting. Now we have a fundraiser. Come on. It's it's really disappointing. It's been, I don't know. And I appreciate one thing I was going to say. I remember speaking to you, Adrian, that sometimes I'm not here because what's going on in the world, it's just depressing. But you guys everyone here in this panel group is, I'd rather watch you guys and MSNBC, CNN, or whatever. But I also want to encourage you, if there's, bring more of a younger crowd, because, here we are. And I admit I'm 45 years old. But what happened on Friday makes me think a lot about my daughter and her choices. God forbid something happens, and, but still a choice was taken away from her. I will definitely like to see more younger crowds come in here, part of the panel, even as a guest speaker, even if it's just a few minutes.
Yeah, definitely. And thank you so much, Raph, for coming through. We're gonna keep it moving. Let me bring in Cynthia because I talked to her off before, and I wanted to have as much female representation on the panel. So I'm bringing Cynthia in for the show, or as long as you want to stay, Cynthia, as well, along with Imani and Ali. But before matter of fact, no, let me Cynthia. Anything you want to say now that you're first on here, and then we're going to go to Hallie Horn, who's in the chat, and then also Raph, if you want to if you raise your hand, like if we continue the show, if you want to raise your hand because you have a comment, I'll try to come to you at some point, but we still see you. So the mic goes to Cynthia. Thank you and welcome to the show.
Hi.
Hey.
Oh, did I just mute myself?
No,
sorry guys.
No. Hi.
Haven't done this before.
No worries, we can hear you.
Okay, good. Hi everybody. Thank you so much, Case, for letting me come on. I gotta be honest, I'm like suffering from a 2-day hangover because I guess I'm in my 30s now, so I'm feeling a little rough.
Yeah,
but
no worries.
Everyone looks great. Everyone looks great in these horrible times.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on. We're going to go to Holly, and then there's also comments in the chat, and we have, this show is about having discussions and debates. So we're going to go to Paul Patrick's comment as he said there is nothing wrong with conservative Democrats who is against abortions. So here's the other side of the discussion, and this is something I want to promote, us having different sides of the equation. So let's first go bring in Holly Horn. Holly Horn, we always see you. How you doing? Thank you so much for always coming by and being in the chat. Go ahead.
Well, thank you for having me on. Just short and sweet. Yes, this is very disappointing. It's very frightening. I personally don't think that I could have an abortion, but I would not deny my sister the right to do it if she needed it. What people forget is that Joe Biden gave us Clarence Thomas, okay? Anita Hill, hello. And Nancy Pelosi supported Quagar, anti-choice. And Hillary's vice president was Tim McCain, anti-choice. So that's my piece.
Thank you so much for coming on, Holly. And then I think, you know what? I think this is discussion, this comment, I'm gonna throw this to Imani because I know you mentioned that you had Democrats who were supporting conservative Democrats, and I think we're talking specifically about Henry Collier in Texas against a progressive named Jessica Cisneros. And my question to you, Imani, is there room for a Democrat who is pro-life is in the Big Tent, quote unquote?
There's no room for people who will deny other people their rights, period. Right? Like, that's just what this is about. If personally you are against abortion and you don't want to get one, I mean, Henry Cuellar, to my knowledge, cannot reproduce children. So, I mean, I don't think his say, he shouldn't be in this conversation at all. But if somebody who can produce children, if they're against abortion, guess what? They have the right to not go get one. That doesn't mean that they should deny everybody that right. Like, they have the right, you have the right to choose whether you want one or not. That's what we're talking about here. It's not that we're saying, oh, forced abortions or anything like that. We are saying that you have a choice. This right gives you the choice of whether to have an abortion or not. So I don't think there's any room for someone who would deny people rights in our party. We are not supposed to be about that. We are not supposed to be the party that denies people rights. It doesn't make any sense. So absolutely not. There's no room in that tent.
I want to throw in a caveat over there. So there's a difference between somebody that would deny somebody's right and somebody that could be a conservative on this topic. And that's because you could have your personal opinion, but not impose it on others. And if you believe in the separation of church and state, you could believe like, yeah, I don't approve abortion, whatever. That's fine. But I would not vote or deny somebody else the right to do it. So I put that distinction there.
So I wanted to say something because I think we all get caught up in framing. And politicians are masters in framing the issue, right? And, you know, as Imani said, we are the party of having freedom of choice. And the anti-choice movement, I personally
Lost you.
sorry, I
You lo-
muted myself.
Okay,
So
no worries.
because how much did you lose? It's not we talked about this before we went on. It's not a pro-life versus pro-choice. You're either pro-choice or you're anti-choice. Most people are pro-life. I'm not pro-death. I'm pro-life, but I'm also pro-choice. But the problem is that it has nothing to do with choice or saving lives or anything. It has to do with controlling and repressing women and their rights. If it was truly a matter of saving children, saving lives, then vasectomies would be mandatory. They're reversible. And think of all those children's lives that would be saved, because every man would have a vasectomy, so women wouldn't have to worry about unwanted pregnancies, because then you would only have, you know, a child when you choose to have, when the man chooses to have one, you can have it. So I personally think that the framing on this issue is very misleading, and it's really an effort to suppress women, suppress minorities, suppress people who don't have resources, and it's very similar to what happened when Reagan came in office, only more. I mean, I'm clearly older than a lot of folks on this call. I remember Reagan coming in. I remember what happened to women's rights. I remember what happened to minorities. You know, the whole thing with, we are going to get rid of midnight basketball. Well, those were youth programs that were keeping kids engaged and off the streets. Well, those went away. Ketchup is a vegetable. That's a joke, but it wasn't a joke. That was true. Free and reduced lunches got rid of fresh fruits and vegetables, which has huge impacts on child development and learning. And I think what we're seeing now is just the second iteration of the same thing. This whole anti-choice movement is about control, not about saving lives. Because like I said, if it was about saving lives, there's other ways to go about it.
Got you 100%. And I see another note. So that was the first no-cow zone question about, pro-life Democrats or conservative Democrats. And I see another no-cow zone question in the chat asking.
But wait, before you go there, I think Cynthia had her hand up.
Oh,
Okay, yeah, I'm not going to go there right now. I'm going to go to Cynthia, and then I'm going to go back. We want to do some more tweets that's off this topic, and then we got to the this topic way earlier than I expected, but which is all right. But then we're going to go to the vax mandate, mass mandate question. Then why do Democrats support the lockdown agenda? So that's another no-cow zone kind of discussion that we can have. But before we get there, let's go to Cynthia. Go ahead, Cynthia.
Well, I don't know if this would segue the conversation to like a hard swerve, but I'm just asking the question of like, well, what do we do now, and how do we essentially reverse what was, what has just been made into law? I'm kind of ignorant about this, so like, what literally can the Democrats do at this point? I mean, can they? And what would it take? You know what I mean? And I feel like I'm happy that it seems to me that a lot of kind of like mainstream liberals are even kind of, raising questions now about like, what the hell are Democrats doing? What have they been doing? What's going on? But is it enough to sway a particular decision? And is it enough to actually make something happen? You know what I mean? Because I feel like, probably like most people, that I feel kind of obligated, like dragging myself to the polls, but now I feel obligated because I am just essentially baited into the fear mongering of like, well, I don't want more Republicans to take over this. You know what I mean? So I guess I'm just taking the temperature of like how everybody feels about that at this point.
Okay, no worries. Let's we're going to answer. I'm going to give that to the panel to answer, and then we'll go to the next the comment in the chat afterwards. So anybody want to take that? I have an answer.
I will.
Yeah, can I jump in here, Case?
Go ahead, Imani.
Yeah, so very, very valid question. I have been raking my brain about this, since this decision came out, because on the one hand, the Supreme Court operates differently than politicians, right? They make a decision and basically they don't reconsider it until another lawyer brings another client with another case, right? Like that's it. So with regards to the Supreme Court, unless more cases are brought, that's kind of it. With regards to what Congress can do, they can codify Roe v. Wade. And they, did vote to do that in the House, but they don't have the numbers in the Senate. Now, here's the thing that has been I don't know what I've been doing this whole week, but like just thinking about it over and over and over. November is coming. And the Democrats have not done the greatest job in the eyes of all voters, right? I mean, the left and the Democratic base is really disheartened, and the morale is down because of how corporate Dems decided to smush out their best talent during these elections. People who are more conservative are looking at the gas prices, looking at inflation, looking at all the things that Biden hasn't delivered on, and is looking at their wallet and saying, I am in a really, really bad position right now. What are the Democrats doing? And then that's just talking about on the federal level elections. We're not even getting into the amount of redistricting games that were played. So what the actual local and state levels are going to be looking like when it comes to who actually does it. Like if you go to the polls, does it actually matter? Because does your vote actually matter given that redistricting either redistricted you out or took away your voting power, etc. So it is a really tough question to answer. And I'm sorry, I know that's like not a real answer, but it's tough. And I just want to, acknowledge that you're right. It's hard to feel like, I'm being dragged to the polls in November, knowing that, if I don't go to the polls, realistically, people are very upset at the Democrats right now. So realistically, there might be a wave of Republicans, but also just thinking about all the fighting that Democrats failed to do before now. And how some of it is just going to be completely out of my hands. Some of these districts, my vote doesn't matter in. So some of that is just completely out of my hands, your hands, people on this panel's hands. And this is why it's so important. The only thing that can be done really at this point is for the corporate Dems to stop playing power games, stop being so concerned with their own power, and realize they have an actual job to do. And when there are good candidates, stop snuffing them out. Stop playing in deep blue districts generally. Why are you here? Why are you spending millions of dollars in deep blue districts when there are purple districts and red districts that actually need your help? What is the purpose of that? So the real solution, and again, it sucks because I know this is long term, but the corporate Democrats need to stop playing around, stop playing power games, and really uplift the most inspiring sect of the Democratic Party, which is progressives.
I don't think they're going to do that, though.
How do we make them do that? How do we make them do that?
Here's my take.
Vote them out.
Yeah,
but go ahead, Allie.
But here's my take. It's going to get a lot worse before it gets better, and I think that people will die, and I think that there will be a lot of trauma inflicted on a lot of people, and that the court will be faced with another case. And I personally think, in terms of what Congress can do, is I think that they should take steps against those justices who clearly lied under oath. I didn't watch all of the hearings, but I watched Amy Coney Barrett's pretty closely. And she was lying. You could watch her lying. And, lying under oath is a crime, and there are punishments. And I think that Congress should take actions. AOC outlined a few. I personally think that they should be fined and go to jail and lose their seats. That is my personal belief, because lying under oath when you are testifying to become the highest justice in the country is serious and significant, and it sets a precedent nationwide. And but having said that, Case, you put up the Cuyahoga River, which was on fire. I think we're going to have that same scenario, but with women's health. There's a lot that is wrong, but it's going to be worse. I'm sorry to say, I just believe it will get worse before it gets better. And in terms of November, you were so nice, Imani, to say that Democrats haven't done a great job. They've done horribly. It's been atrocious. Our economy is not good. Baby formula ran out. I mean, moms don't care about, whatever. They care about their kids, right? They don't care about whatever the political talking point is of the day. And they're going to vote for the person who is going to deliver for them, that they feel is going to deliver for them on a personal basis. And I think that they're going to go back to a very red swing. Here in Virginia, I've talked about this before, but Glenn Youngkin won because he literally held up a gallon of milk and said, I'm going to repeal the food tax because moms shouldn't have to pay tax to give their kids milk. And he won. And I think that's what we're going to see. I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. And I think that's tragic that these corporate establishment Dems have worked so hard to fight against the progressives within their own house. For instance, the Cisneros-Cuellar race. And they've completely lost the ball in terms of the bigger picture of what the Koch brothers started back in the 80s that is all coming to fruition now.
Yeah.
Do you think, I just have one last question about this. Do you think
then we're going to bring in Raph, who I saw raise his hand, but go ahead, Cynthia.
Okay, I'm sorry. Just going off that one point about November, essentially. Do you think that perhaps, unfortunately, this could maybe be somewhat of a galvanizing issue to sort of wave in a lot more people who are now sort of engaged to vote for Democrats in November? Because I don't know if you saw, but there was some article about Trump actually like privately being like, that was so stupid, but then publicly being like, isn't this great? And I feel like that kind of stuck out to me because I feel like he's very intuitive. And I think that maybe actually could be a tipping point. Or no? Or do you think no?
I think that if anything could be, that would be. I think personally that the Republicans and the conservatives have done an amazing job in leading the narrative, by it's a smoke and mirrors game, right? So, going back to Trump being very savvy, absolutely, and he's in the process of passing $1 trillion tax refund for his wealthiest cronies. And what's all over the news? Let's not kneel. What's the football player's name? Kaepernick. Mm-hmm. The news is Colin Kaepernick is un-American because he's kneeling, which of course was a gesture of honor and respect that he was doing that in that way. But that dialogue got lost, and everybody's like, "Yeah, you don't kneel. I'm an American." Nobody's noticing the tax cuts, right? And I think that the Republicans are very, very good at doing that. And I think that they're going to continue to reframe the issues. And there's a lot of months between now and November, and we'll see what happens. I think that if they frame it in a way that it's, the Democrats want to kill your babies, that's going to have a lot of impact on a certain segment of the society. And keep in mind that suburban women came out the first time in large numbers for Trump. So, I don't know.
That's what I'm saying is I feel like still a lot of suburban liberal women who may have not been motivated to go to the polls for the midterms might be a little more motivated at this point. You know what I mean?
So,
maybe.
So I have a completely cynical view about this. Because again, like Ali mentioned, in 2016, we saw that Trump, grab him by the Trump won white women. He actually won that over, and his opponent was actually a white woman. And he, had been, accused of rape by multiple victims. And still there was this flock of conservative white women who went over to him. Mm-hmm. And so, one of the things that I think is often shied away from on the Democratic side, and I actually think this is a little bit of a problem with progressives a little bit too, is that we shy away from organizing the conservative suburbs. Like, there is just no organizing going on there, which means Republicans can run amok with whatever messaging they want. I don't think that if we completely do not do organizing in the conservative suburbs, or really conservative places generally, but certainly the conservative suburbs that has been neglected as far as organizing is concerned, I don't think those folks are going to come over to the Democratic side in November. I mean, look at things like critical race theory. Look at things like school boards right now, where the Republicans are really pushing those two fights. And where are those? The conservative suburbs. Mm-hmm. So I am not optimistic unless the Democrats really start putting their elbow into organizing that group of folks between now and November.
Yeah, 100%. Matter of fact, I saw an article recently that Republicans are creating community centers. Like, so they're targeting, the underserved community that traditionally was the Democrats demographic. And also I looked up, can a Supreme Court justice be removed? And it said to remove a Supreme Court justice, you need 2/3 majority of the Senate. So you need at least 66 votes, which we know we definitely do not have. And I'm going to bring in Raph to talk about that. Go ahead, Raph.
Yeah, because right now we have Joe Manchin around, and how's that going to work out? I agree with you, Ali. Right now, the Democrats they dropped the ball, and like I said, they shot themselves foot many times. Um, the only way, you're right, it's going to get worse before it gets better, and unfortunately, the way everything's projected, the way this midterm is going to come out, and I hate to say it, I don't want to see him. I think he's coming back, Trump, 2024. The way things are right now, even right now, Trump still has an effect, and he's not president. This is so sad right now that what happened Friday was going on with gun rights the day before with the Supreme Court. Trump is still there, even though he's not in the Oval Office. This is going to take a long time. And the only way this is going to happen if, you're right, or everyone is right, if the established Democrat starts evolving, and it does evolve with more progressive, but like I said, they're shooting themselves in the foot, and it's sad. We're by the time maybe my children have children, then we begin to see the change that we've been looking for the last couple of years. Instead, we're going to see them in 20 years. Too little, too late by then, maybe.
Thank you so much, Raph, for jumping in here. Yeah, totally. If anyone else have anything they want to say, and then I'm going to go on.
Well, I just had one last thing about
Sure.
that. I don't know, you guys. Maybe I'm ignorant, or I'm like thinking too highly, or like I'm getting too hopeful. I guess I just felt like the temperature of the situation was that most kind of like mainstream normie liberals would not, get involved in the midterms or like be excited about the midterms, because this is like the area in which we need to kind of like galvanize people, right? To be able to try and take more seats, because we were all kind of expecting, oh, there's going to be a huge red wave. The Republicans are going to like, slide right in there. So I don't know. I guess I was just thinking within the context of this like very extreme measure that just took place, perhaps more, normie, maybe would have stayed home liberals would be more, energized to go to the polls in November. But
let me tell you why it's like probably this is something like 20 years in the making, right? So the Republicans been working on this for 20 years. They knew that the Supreme Court was the way. They stole the seat. They put Amy Barrett got in less than a month, right? So first they steal that seat, then they get another Supreme Justice right then and there. And in the last 20 years, the Democrats haven't really done anything, right? They haven't really done anything to say like, we had the vote, we could have done it, we haven't done it. So they knew that they wanted to use this for political. This is going to be, they're going to go back again. The same slogan is not going to work, though. This is your election of a lifetime. Women rights are on the ballot. Like, that's just not going to work because we've been here before. So we were here in 2016, we were here in 2020, and 2022, I think it's going to be a blowbath. It's not even going to be close because people are, and then Bernie Sanders is going to get blamed for it. They're going to say, oh, well, young people don't care, young people don't vote, and they're going to find whatever they could find to blame on. But they could have done something. Now, if they want people to get excited, I would say, yeah, bring some of those Supreme Court into a trial and that they lie under oath. Try to expand the court. Like, do something that will say, okay, well, even if they faking it, at least they doing something. But if they just go in and say, like, nope, like the abortion rights are on the ballot, you need to bring us in, we don't have the vote, it's Manchin and Sinema's fault, they're going to lose, and it's not even going to be close.
Case, I just want to add something really quick because I know we have to move on to the next thing, but it's a logistical point that I think can help kind of conceptualize. I believe your name is Cynthia, right? Okay. So when redistricting happens, right? A lot of times people are put into the same area. Like there are blue districts, there are purple districts, there are red districts. Let's say in every blue district, right, on the local level, a bunch of people came out, a bunch of these liberals who are now fired up came out and voted. Well, likely they were already going to have a Democrat because of how their district is. It's D plus, like let's say 15. My district was D plus 34, then became D plus 32, right? So we're always going to have a Democrat. But in the places where redistricting has happened, where it's either a purple seat or it's a red seat, you know, Republicans are going to, they have the numbers to win in the red seats. And the purple districts, it's a question of whether, you know, whether the suburbs, the conservative white suburbs, will actually be fired up enough by this issue? Are they more fired up by things like critical race theory? Are they more fired up by things like stopping socialism? Dun, 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 right? So it really, the districts sometimes make it hard for, even if there was a swell of people who came and voted, it's similar to like the electoral college in a way. There could be a whole swell of people who come and vote, but if it's not within their district lines, or if their district was already deep blue or deep red, it almost won't matter.
That sucks. Yeah, that sucks. That's horrible democracy. Okay, next question.
All right.
But thank you for asking the difficult questions, though. Thank you.
No, yeah, I'm very new to politics, so please, guys, just don't mind me. I will be. I'm learning all about this stuff, and I assume I'm not the only, or at least I hope I'm not the only one. So
I definitely want to address even Marianne, who said, you know, the mandate issue, my body, my choice, is also similar to the abortion issue, my body, my choice. And I know that's been a topic I saw today on Rising. They were discussing that same topic. Anyone has any opinion on that?
I mean, I think that's in the chat. I mean, it's clearly BS. It's not even the same thing. When you're talking about, you know, mask mandates or vaccine mandates, obviously, you know, you're trying to say in the chat, like, oh, why don't you, you know, keep the same energy with the individual freedoms? But yeah, you don't have to get a vaccine. It's up to you. So that you're not, there is no mandate to have a vaccine. There isn't. But there is consequences. You know, there are places where, you know, if you're not vaccinated, or if you're not vaccinated, you're not allowed to get in. I mean, that's people that talked about, you know, the freedom of businesses to put their rules or whatever, you know. And there's also the fact that if you carry a disease with you, what gives you the right to give it to me? You know, it's a matter of, you know, public health. You know, the government should take care of everybody, not just give you a right to do whatever you want, even if it hurts other people. So, you know, it's just ridiculous thinking.
Gotcha. Anyone else? And then
yeah, abortions aren't contagious. I mean, isn't that the most obvious point? Like,
Yeah.
you know, like when people,
Yeah.
like Republicans think this is such a gotcha, like my body, my choice. It's like literally, it's not the same thing. What logic are you operating on? You know.
Well, there's a couple other things too, and this goes back to how the conservatives are very, very good at framing, because you know, masks you're not gonna be able to breathe, you're stifling whatever. Surgeons have been wearing masks for, you know, since we found out you can kill a person by breathing on someone when you're operating on them. You know, you go into any hospital, and pre-pandemic, masks are everywhere because of contagious disease. So that's, you know, the whole thing about you're not going to be able to breathe. Well, then we'd have a lot of dead surgeons everywhere. And in terms of vaccines, you know, I've got kids who go to school. Guess what? They are required to get vaccines, polio, DTaP, you know, that vaccines are required because they don't want them, one, getting horrible diseases, and two, communicating them to the rest of the student body. So I think that, again, those are specious arguments that that people have put out to really subvert attention from the important issues that are happening, like packing the Supreme Court, like pushing through economic policies that benefit the 0.1% over the vast majority of Americans, over, you know, reducing environmental safeties, right? The Trump administration reduced so many of the environmental safeguards that we had in place. You never heard about that on the news. What did you hear about? Colin Kaepernick, masks, whatever, who knows? It doesn't matter. None of these things are important issues. Masks are not an important issue. They don't keep you from breathing. And the whole fact that this has been put forth as a talking point, frankly, is to manipulate people and get them to focus on things that are not really substantive and important in a bigger scale.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm just gonna blame Susan for all of this. It's Susan's fault.
Oh my God. Yo,
I'm gonna play this.
I think that Democrats, to an extent, have their hands tied here. This is a decision that's been made by the Supreme Court. They can talk about kind of changing the composition of Congress, but that's a long-run game. And I don't think Democrats really want to get pulled into what I perceive as kind of no-win debates over court packing, killing the filibuster, and the rest of the progressive wish list. I think that can kind of lead to a place where actually Democrats don't gain from this politically. But it's a tricky situation for Biden for sure.
Yeah, so let me take it. Yeah, so I just wanted to play that, and that clip kind of went. Dave Sirota retweeted that, and basically, I just wanted to highlight the defeativism that is on the left. Like, he hears this guy just saying, there's nothing really we can do. Don't try to pack the courts. Don't try to get rid of the filibuster, which is like one of the ways that the Democrats are saying that they need to fight. And here's a commentator just saying, there's nothing we can do. And
can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead, Allie.
So here he is, a man talking about this issue. And I got to tell you, my apologies if I'm going to offend the men here, but you know what? Screw you. If you wanted to, I'll tell you what, if it was required that for every unwanted pregnancy, there was a paternity test done, and that man had to take responsibility for that child, had to pay child support, had to, take care of that child, whatever the responsibilities were, and share that with the mom, then let's see what his argument is. In addition to which, as I said before, if it was truly about saving lives, abortion is not the issue, right? Because there are mandatory vasectomies. Boom. Suddenly we don't have a lot of unwanted pregnancies. But the fact is that women are required to take a disproportionate burden, which is just a control issue. It is a way of keeping women down. And if that man is given up, it's because it doesn't impact him. If like I said, if it was the law that men had to take care of every child that they fathered, I think his response might be a little bit different.
100%.
I will add, though, that I think the way he put it is very defeatist, but I also think it's important for us to be honest about what exists as a path versus what doesn't. Right. And when the Supreme Court says something, again, it's very, very difficult to get something even to go to the level of the Supreme Court. And then that's even if they accept the case, right? Sometimes they don't even accept the case and hear it. Sometimes they just send it back to the lower courts. I do understand like the way he says, just like, nothing to do. Oh, well, go home. Let's all go home and watch TV. Like that's a very not great way to put it. But I also think it's important for us to say there was a bunch of actions we could have took before now. There were dozens that we could have taken to stop Republicans from getting so much power that now they're stripping away constitutional rights. And we failed, and by we, I mean corporate Dems and Dem leadership, failed to stop them adequately in order for them to now be able to do this. And I think it's important for us to be like, look at what a roadblock we've come up against now and being honest about that. Because if we're just kind of like, tomorrow we're going to rise up and we're going to get rid of this, that's not true. It's going to take a lot of fighting. It's going to take a lot of grunt work. It's going to take a lot of going to the polls. It's going to take a lot of, frankly, money. I know we hate to say that, but it's true. So while I think his tone was definitely dismissive, and I agree with you, Allie, like he definitely wouldn't be saying it in the tone of like, la-di-da-di-da, let's all go home and, have a drink. But at the same time, I do think it's important to note how difficult this is actually going to be to fix.
Yeah,
that's a good point. It's an ounce of prevention, pound of cure, and we're in the pound of cure phase.
But remember, it took the Republican again like 20 years to get here, so it's gonna take us a long time to get there as well, because they've been planning for this. We didn't do anything, and I genuinely think that Democrat held this on their pocket to use it for political game, and it may come back and backfire them. So that's just, it's not going to be easy, but I think if they at least pretend that they're doing something, and like you have all these senators, Republican senators like Collins saying, well, Judge Kavanaugh lied to me. He told me that was settled law and stuff. Or call him back. Why? If he lied under oath and he lied to you and he overturned his decision, make those, like if you start seeing those progresses, when you're going to get people to it. But if you use this as political gain, it's just going to be bad.
Can you extrapolate what you mean? Like, I know what you mean, but I keep asking, I see that clip of Obama, those competing clips of Obama from like 2007, where he's like, I'm going to make this one of my priorities. And then, you have the Curb Your Enthusiasm music where he's like, I'm not making this a priority. Like, what do you mean by the Democrats were using this as a political? Is it really that dark? Is basically what I'm asking. Is it really that dark? Like, they could have codified it at that time, but they decided not to, and like have this facade of complacency. Why?
Yeah,
back pocket, like something in their back pocket to use at another.
But when
time?
you look, go back all the way to 2000, the Al Gore election, he just gave in. Nothing really happened there. What did they get? They get a Supreme Court judge, right? When you look at what the Obama years, when what was it, Neil Gerbish? What was his last? I think that's how you say his name. Was what, 13 months? 13 months. They didn't even got a vote in. That was definitely, they're like, Republicans were like, like during an election year, no judge should be elected or whatever it is voted on. Then they put Amy in within 13 months. Like when you look at it, the Republicans been working, like Imani even say, like at the local level, the school board level. Like this is a 20-year in the making, and the Democrats know this. Anybody that just followed, they kind of knew that's what the Republicans were working on. Now they're going after gay rights, right? That's next, and they haven't done anything. They had, I think Obama had a 55 Senate majority, and they could have passed it. They had the House and the Senate, and they didn't. So not just Obama, even before that. So I just don't think they ever done anything to really fix it, and they just held it in their back pocket. So when they knew it was going to happen, they used it as a political point to say, "Oh, now we're going to do something." And like Imani said, it's not going to be easy.
Yeah, there was
right now.
Yeah, there was a video of Obama saying in 2007, he was saying, "Oh, we're going to codify Roe v. Wade," and then in 2009, they had a clip of him saying, "Oh, yeah, that's not a priority right now."
I'm like Imani, having gone through this process, I'm jaded. And I really think that they do it because they've been raising money off of it. And, Imani, I'd like to go back to something you said earlier, which is a really excellent distinction. When something like this happens, you made a point about, you put out a fundraising letter. But that's if you're a challenger, because you're challenging the status quo. And that's legitimate. Give me money because we need to get rid of the people who aren't doing anything about it. It's complete hypocrisy for people who are entrenched incumbents to try and fundraise off of this when they clearly are only doing it to fundraise. They don't really want to make a change, and it's very frustrating. And I really think, like you just said, John, it's going to take a long time.
Go ahead, Raph, and then we're going to wrap up the show.
Another thing that's really concerning, other than what you mentioned, Ali, about this recent abortion overturn from Roe v. Wade, is it's not just control of women, but also the has and has-nots. Because I think it was a month ago, I did see CNN, forgot the commentator. Abortion is not going to go away. It's who could afford it. Because if a woman who has enough money to leave the country, and even if she gets caught, she could have the best lawyer. And unfortunately, this decision affects lower income and, of course, minorities. So it's not just control of women, but also at the same time certain certain race, Hispanics, African Americans. It's this decision. It takes a whole lot, just more than just women. It affects everybody with lower income or those who are, African American, Asian American, Hispanic American, and so on.
Yeah, thank you, Raf. And so we're gonna do a tweet storm of I'm just gonna go through a rapid fire of a whole bunch of different topics or different things here. So this one says, let me make it bigger. Hillary Clinton can rescue Democrats in the midterms. That's the name of this article.
No,
from the Hill.
sorry.
Yeah, that sounds accurate.
Yeah.
Right. And then let's bring this up. I brought that one up, that video. So it says New York City $10 billion a year on cops, but here's what our hospitals look like. So here's like all these caution tapes, buckets, because water is coming through the ceilings, and we're giving $10 billion to the NYPD. Crazy. All right. So here is a tweet. It says, last week, a San Diego cop saw me giving out tents and bragged that we can throw them out faster than I can give them out. Well, he might be right, but that's not going to stop me from trying. So here's a bunch of tents in a cart, and basically, he gives it out to the homeless so they have some sort of shelter, but the cops over there are just bragging that they're going to throw it away. Now, I want to get the women on this panel, I want the panel's opinion of his, unfortunately, Brittany Griner is still in Russia. And I feel like with all the power, like the mighty USA, we can't bring Brittany back. Let me, Al, I see you, nodding your head. What do you think about this?
Oh, it's a travesty. It's horrific. And all she did, she had some CBD oil. It wasn't like she was, carrying drugs for use. She just had
allegedly.
Whatever. All I know is that, I saw the story happen that she was detained, and then I never heard anything else about it. I thought, oh, okay, well, they've worked it all out and she's home. And then come to find out a month later, she's still there and they're ignoring her. It's horrific. And I think it has to do with the fact that she's a woman and she's a woman of color. And you know what? They're just ignored. And it's horrific. It's absolutely horrific.
Unfortunately, yeah.
I missed that. So she had CBD oil. That's all she had.
That's my understanding. From the
Supposedly, that's the story.
Go ahead,
If she even had it, but I don't, I'm not gonna go as far as to say she's being ignored just like that, because obviously the Russians are using her as a pawn. I mean, they were asking that what's the God of War guy in exchange for her. So obviously, especially with the war going on in Ukraine, they're just using her as a high-profile hostage, pretty much. So there are negotiations going on from what I read. The family knows about it. So, it's not, I don't know details, they probably could do more, but I know they are doing something.
Yeah, but so when so there were college basketball players from UCLA that got detained in 2018. They got detained in China. Do you guys remember this?
Yep.
There was negotiations, and boom, they were back in the country after a few days, right?
Yeah.
So, if this country wanted to do something, something would be done.
I mean, it is true. It is true, but the only difference is there was no military action going on with China. Now that there is something going on in the whole world, it's like what Carlita said. They're using her as a.
There may not be an active military conflict, but here's the thing. I mean, I worked at DOD in 2018, and I'll tell you, China was considered a top threat on a number of fronts. So they were definitely not our bosom buddies, and we still were able to deal with them. And I get it, Russia's worse, but it's not.
It's not that it's worse. It's just, I guess, the timing of it is a little different, right? Russia is in a conflict where in 2018 they weren't, but Russia always finds a way to. Russia always finds a way to, raise the stakes. All
right, we're going to go to Imani and then Big Pun, and then I'm going to move on. Go ahead, Imani.
Yeah, I mean, I still think the issue is, I mean, I think even more so than her being a woman, I think it's the fact that she is a person of color. That's, really the big issue. I've lived through quite a few hostage situations now under the Bush administration. There was, I think this was an Obama administration with the young white kid who went to North Korea, and they ended up messing up his brain or whatever. Like that was a hot situation I've lived through, and these things were covered a lot more than this issue, like a lot more. Now, again, I don't have inside knowledge. Maybe there's a strategic reason why they're keeping it more quiet than not. I can't comment on that because I just don't have that insider knowledge. But I will say, just looking at the comparison between this and past hostage situations that I've lived throughout my lifetime, this is significantly different in how little coverage it's getting and how little attention.
The media coverage is different.
Crazy. Yeah, go ahead, Big Pun.
Again, I'm not shocked at what the inaction that's going on because of who she is. She's an athlete. She's a woman of color. The whole CBD thing. So I'm not shocked. I mean, and then they're not gonna go ahead and do that. What was the last guy they got out of Russia? It was another guy, right? But he was near like death. I mean, they had tortured him or something, whatever. And he was, but I forgot who it was. You guys remember that?
Yeah, but they did some kind of like in exchange for some spies they had here.
Correct. So it was like some kind of spy thing, and supposedly he had done anything, but we don't know what he was doing this or whatever it is. But this is a totally different thing. So but I'm not shocked that they're not doing it. Not shocked. Yep, not shocked.
Yeah, 100%. Oh man, thank you everyone for coming on the show. It was so fun. Thank you, Big Pun, Raf, Carlito, Ali, Imani, Bendone for producing, Cynthia, Big John. So let me go to our guest first as we let you all give your goodbyes. I'll go to Imani last. So Cynthia, go ahead with your goodbye. Thank you for coming by the show.
Thank you. Thanks, guys, for answering my questions.
No problem. Ali.
My pleasure to be here. I look forward to coming back more. I actually I could talk for another hour on this topic. It's you can't be pro-life and support the death penalty. I'll throw that out there.
Imani, go ahead.
Thank you so much for having me. As always, it's been a blast. Anybody wants to facilitate more conversations, you can find me on all social media. My handle at Imani Oakley NJ10. Hit me up, tweet me. Let's have some conversation and let's continue the fight because, as everyone said, we've got a fight ahead of us. So let's continue together.
Yeah, 100. To my PJs, anyone want to say anything? Any goodbyes? Otherwise, I'm going to shout out the chat and end the show. All right. Thank you so much. All right. So Gamer for Life, thank you for coming through. Lambda Man, Angela, Sangster, Paul Patrick, Cheryl Patrick. Let me see who else. Holly Horn was in the building. Mia, if you're out there, I didn't see you in the chat, but I know you're usually here. And much love to everybody. Let me say, shout out the Patreon. There it is.
Oh, you have a
Pedro Hernandez, Nancy Vancher, PJ Chris. Akibash Akita. Thank you. Also, PJ Chris was in the building. I saw her as well. Again, thank you all. I wanted to make sure we had female representation on this panel, especially with this issue. Men talk enough on this topic. And we definitely wanted it. Thank you again, Ali.
Thank you, Case. Thanks for the opportunity.
Definitely.
Give to Imani's campaign.
Thank you.
Yeah. We're going to talk about that coming up. Look out for a DM, Imani and Ali, where we're going to talk about your exit in I call it the exit interview, where you talk about when you ran and how everything went, and we're going to get into the nitty-gritty as usual to give an inside look on how the campaign went and all the dirty stuff that they encountered running as progressive Democrats. So look forward to that. Hopefully early next week we'll make that arrangements. Thank you everybody for coming by. Much love to y'all. See you next week. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that. Have a great one. Adios.